What's going on, everyone? It's the Pizza Buffet Week 8 in the NFL here on Forward Progress, presented by Fanduel. I'm Rob Pizzola. I'm here with you for the next hour. I had Halloween and cheese last night at a friend's, and I'm feeling it. It's a rough morning. The stash went with the costume, and I haven't had time to shave it yet. I mean, if Simon Hunter saw the stash, he'd be calling me some names right now. But I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll rock it. Seems like the chat is already in favor of the stash. Anyways, I'll get through it today. It's lots of games, 8 early, 5 late, plus Sunday night football. I'll spend more time on the games that I have opinions on, obviously. For those who are new here, and we do get new viewership every single week, I'm going to give my numbers on each game. If I give out a prop on a game, you can trust that I like it at any market number. You should shop around always. I wouldn't suggest just betting at one book, but shop around. Know that I like it at any market number. If you see news in real time, drop it in here. I got the phone off. I got Telegram, WhatsApp closed. I'm looking specifically to break down these games for you. If you see something late and breaking, drop it in the chat, and I will react to it as I see it. Some of my picks may change from earlier in the week. I just want you to understand why. I purely run my own numbers on the game, and I bet my own numbers. I don't come out and give an opinion early in the week and then see someone else betting something and change my opinion. I don't do that. I've been betting football for a living for a while now. I'm successful with my process that I have in place. When the market moves against me, I pay attention, but ultimately, I trust my numbers. So if my pick has changed from earlier in the week, it is a reaction to new information. Something that happened over the course of the week, whether that's injury related, could be something else that has altered my number on the game. Maybe the market just moved too far in one direction and I like the other side. One of those games I'll talk about today. I want to remind you, this is the worst time to be betting NFL. You've had all week. You usually want to get your picks in beforehand. I do think there's going to be one opportunity today, but game day, a lot of these books are taking big money, whether that's on sides and totals or even now Fanduel props, taking a pretty good pop on those as well. It's a little bit more challenging to win on game day. Tune into our content here on Forward Progress earlier in the week to get some opinions earlier in the week. I'll share anytime touchdown scores at the end. I want to remind you, we're never going to have that like week 2 3-game parlay hit again. It's extremely unlikely. So just proceed with caution, bet responsibly. Don't think that these are going to win. I see a lot of great comments in here that are making me laugh. I did a dual costume with the wife this year where I went as the ventriloquist and she went as the ventriloquist dummy. So I had the suit on, the bow tie, the bowler hat. It was a good look. And tried to get as much sleep as I could today because I'm certainly on one. So, yeah. Before we get into it, smash the like button down below. And if you can, a lot of you did this last week. Truly appreciated for those who shared the content out on their social platforms. But if you can just click that share button, get this out onto Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever the hell you want to get it out. Your friends' WhatsApp chats. Share the content out. It's much appreciated. Goes a long way to helping us grow the brand here at Forward Progress. All right. Let's get into it. First game of the day. Rotation number order per usual. It's the Lions and it is the Titans. I'm not really sweating much in this game today. Looking at the market right now, it's kind of held in place from where it's been for the majority of the week. Detroit minus 11.5. Some of the sharper books up to 12. Total in the game is 44.5. I think that total might be a little bit low in this game, but I don't really, I'm not running to back a Tennessee over. For Detroit, you got Jameson Williams suspended. On the Tennessee side, L'Jarius Sneed is out. They do have some injuries on defense that need to be monitored, but I think Tavondre Sweat, who's their nose tackle, Jerome Baker, and also backup corner or like their second corner there, Jarvis Brownlee. Monitor all those. I think they're all going to play. I have them in my number. the Lions should be able to move the ball on pretty much any team in the league because they have this great offensive line. Tennessee might offer a little bit of resistance here and there. Tennessee's defensive numbers are actually pretty solid across the board, but injuries in the secondary and in all likelihood, not going to win the field position battle in this game unless something crazy happens. You get a Mason Rudolph game. I do like Mason Rudolph over on passing yards. Has to be sub 200, which is pretty much across the entire market right now. But I like the over there. One is the spread of the game and the fact that they're going to be in a trailing game state in all likelihood. And number two, I know they won against the Vikings last week. I still have major concerns over the Lions pass rush moving forward. Josh Pascal is out. That is in addition to obviously Aiden Hutchinson on IR, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky. The D-line is very thin. Rudolph can't really push downfield. But to me, this number is a little bit low. That's the way I would go with this game in particular. Nothing else. I mean, on my end, I pretty much got nothing going on this game altogether. Game number 2. It's the Ravens and it's the Browns. I've spoken about this game a lot this week. We are down to pretty much 7.5 across the board. I actually still think that those 7.5s are valuable. Total in the game, 44.5. I lean slightly to the over. I really, really do think that, I mean, the market is caught up this morning. And for those who tune into my other content, whether that's Wednesday Best Bets or me on other networks, I made this game 7 pretty much the entire week. That's assuming Zay Flowers is going to play. Baltimore will probably still be able to move the ball. But I think there's a couple things working in the favor of the Browns. One, they play man defense. Now, Zay Flowers is a man defense killer, but he's banged up. He's hobbled. That works in their favor. Lamar, simply not as good against man as he is against zone. If you look at last year in the NFL, he had a 0.18 EPA per play against man. That was 24th in the league. So there's a drop-off there. Derrick Henry has been destroying teams as of late. The Browns' run defense has been very good. You look at when Henry has gone up against good run defenses this year, Chiefs week 1, Bengals, he was contained for the majority of those games as well. So I think that Baltimore, you can't stop the offense, but I think that the Browns defense has a better chance to slow them down. On the other side, Jedrick Wills is out at left tackle. He has not been great since returning. They do get Wyatt Teller back at right guard, but you have injuries on the Baltimore defense. Marlon Humphrey out. Nate Wiggins probably not going to play. They have a depth corner, TJ Tampa, who's out. Big-time secondary concerns. Now, I'm not going to come here and say, like, Jameis Winston is this amazing quarterback. That's not what I'm here to say. But I think he is a significant upgrade over Deshaun Watson, more so than the market is pricing in right now. And that's purely because Watson was just so bad, especially at taking sacks. Took 33 sacks this season. We're going into week 8 right now. His EPA lost from sacks is insane this year. You also look at the problems in the Ravens secondary. They've allowed 34 completions of 20 or more yards this year. That's the most explosive passes in the NFL, and now they're down multiple corners. Jameis can take advantage of that. Deshaun Watson wouldn't have. So I still think there's room here on Cleveland. Obviously, the market is the market this morning. I had several years of trying to beat the market, at least sharp books, on Sundays, and I fully admit that I can't do it, but I'll be rooting heavily for the Browns today. I think that they're very live in the game. From a prop perspective, I like Jerry Jeudy over 3.5 receptions at -110. I think he'll be a big beneficiary of Jameis being in there. Jeudy has created some separation this year. He just doesn't have the quarterback to find him. I think 3.5 is a little bit low. Nate Wiggins, addition by subtraction. I would tend to agree. I mean, not great year for Nate Wiggins, but when you're already banged up in the cornerback group, we'll see. I mean, it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. All right. Thoughts on over in the game, says Jeffrey. Yeah, I lean over in that game. I mean, you see my number up on screen. It's marginal. I think my preference would be Cleveland team total over if I was playing anything, but that would be it. And guys, like, people think that I have like this vendetta against the Ravens. Like this, it's so personal for Ravens fans when I pick against their team. I just do what numbers tell me to do. I mean, I've built a model in a way that has back tested really well. And it has felt at points this year that the Ravens may be overvalued by market. I can admit it's been wrong in some of those games. I've also had a lot of success this season. Through 7 weeks of the year, this has been pretty much the best season I've had since I've gone professional and betting. So please, I mean, it's not personal. Game number 3, Jags and Packers. Jags money on this game. A lot of that coincided with Cam Robinson clearing concussion protocol at left tackle. And we're sitting at 3.5 across the board, 48.5/49, the total in the game. I'm pretty much right on market here, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on this game. The big thing, like I mentioned, was Cam Robinson clearing protocol. Jacksonville probably can have some success running the ball in this game because Tank Bigsby has been just playing that well. 4th in EPA per rush, 2nd in yards per carry in the NFL this year. He's been great. The issue and concern I have with Jacksonville is they give up a ton of explosive plays. Green Bay has the most explosive plays in the entire NFL. Recipe for disaster. Now, Jacksonville plays very high rates of cover 1 and cover 2 relative to league average. Jordan Love has really, not been good against those defenses this season. You go back to last year, which is a much larger sample, and these were the defensive schemes he struggled against the most. All of these are already accounted for in my numbers on the game, and I'm just kind of like, I think this is a fine number in market right now. I like Josh Jacobs under rushing yards in this game. I think it's a little bit too high. I like Jacksonville's run-stopping personnel. I think the run D has not really been an issue this year, more so that teams just pass the ball all over them. They're a pass funnel defense. Josh Jacobs in the low 60s, in my opinion, is worth an under look. Yeah, we got him 62.5 at Fanduel there right now. Connor says play Green Bay alts rather than lay the 3.5. I know Judah made a case for that on Forward Progress Wednesday best bets. And I played a Green Bay alt against Arizona a few weeks ago. I do like Green Bay as a team to generally play alts on, either for or against in a lot of cases. I think they have a very wide range on what they can be. If you chart Jordan Love's individual performances over his career, they're all over the place relative to other quarterbacks. Jim H says Jacobs will go over yards in the first half. Guess what, Jim? You can bet it. You're definitely entitled to your own opinion. And the beautiful thing about betting is you're allowed to bet your own opinions. Indy and Houston, 4th game on the board. One-way money towards the Colts this week, which I agree with. Down to 4.5 at Fanduel. We do have a couple offshores at 5 still right now. Not much of a difference between those numbers. Total in the game, 44.5 at Fanduel, 45 at some other books as well. I don't like either of these teams relative to market, I will say. I do upgrade Indy's offense with the return of Jonathan Taylor. You look at the Houston defense, Mario Edwards is still suspended. Azeez Al-Shaair is out. Jimmy Ward is out. We don't know yet about Henry To'oTo'o. He could be missing, which is significant injuries in the front 7 against a back like Jonathan Taylor behind an offensive line that's held up really well this year. They do get Kamari Lassiter back at cornerback. I'm not a believer in Anthony Richardson, but again, this is priced into my number on the game. Richardson's very boomer bust. He did have a good game against Houston in week 1, but he's just very inaccurate. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. So certainly a wide range of outcomes on Indy as well. On the other side of things, DeForest Buckner returns. So they have the healthy D-line with Buckner alongside Grover Stewart. That's pretty big for them. I've been talking about the Texans offense a lot this year. You look back to last week, 22 points against the Packers. Looks okay, but 10 of those points came off turnovers. They generated less than 200 yards of offense. Bobby Slowick is calling some bad games right now. This is a cover 3 defense run by Gus Bradley, where CJ Stroud, success rate EPA-wise, especially without Nico Collins in the lineup, has really struggled to beat this defense. And honestly, without Collins, the offense just hasn't been there. They had the big game against the Patriots, and that's certainly possible against the Colts. But I would say that I think Indy's D is a little bit underrated right now because they went through so many injuries so far this year. It's not a good defense, but they're at full health, and that changes things. It's very similar to how I view the Rams defense as a comparable, where statistically they're terrible, but they went through a lot of injuries. As a prop here, I'm going to go opposite Hitman. Full disclosure, I have a very bad track record when I'm opposite Hitman. He is a much better prop bettor than I am. I hate to say that because sports fans, especially bettors, are very ego-driven. He's better than me. Yesterday, Saturday, prop show here on Forward Progress, he talked about how Joe Mixon has kind of slowly been phased out of the passing game. Dare Ogunbowale is getting a lot of the third down looks for that team. I think there's been an over-adjustment on Mixon here. And I also think that with the inability to stretch the field for the Texans, they might simplify this offense a little bit more this week. I like Joe Mixon over on receptions, especially if you can get the plus money. I wouldn't go past minus 110 here, but I like Joe Mixon over on receptions in this game. And Hitman and me will talk about this and have a good laugh tonight because one way or another, one of us is winning on this one. Okay, we're going to keep it moving here, but I want to remind you, bet the NFL season on Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook. I'm a big fan of Fanduel as a product. We use the product on every single live watch along here on Forward Progress. Great live odds, great app. The utility of it is fantastic. And they're also very fair with customers as well, relative to a lot of the other recreational sports books. So I'm a big fan of the product overall, caters to all types of bettors. And right now, all customers get a profit boost every single NFL game day. That means you can pump up your gridiron winnings multiple times a week. It's Sunday. That means we have an anytime touchdown profit boost token. I'm going to give out 4 anytime touchdowns later in the show. You can easily use a profit boost token there, or you can save one for Sunday Night Football. There's a same game parlay profit boost token as well. FanDuel has tons of ways you can get in on the action. You can bet money lines, spreads, player props, and more. Plus, with super simple live betting, lightning fast bet settlement, and instant withdrawals, FanDuel makes betting on the NFL easier than ever before. Just visit FanDuel.com/forwardprogress to download FanDuel today. You must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms for offers at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 888-789-7777 or ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. In Massachusetts, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right. Take a sip of water here. The hangover. Got to hydrate. Huge sports schedule today, too. Juventus Inter this afternoon. Got the Mexican Grand Prix later on today. It's a banger. All right. Game number 5, Arizona, Miami. One-way action, Miami this week. I agree with that. Again, I'm not just, patting myself on the back here. You guys watch the content. You know what my opinions are early on in the week. We've settled here in the 4.5 range, total at 46.5. At 4.5, I think you can make a case that this has gone too far. Where we stand right now, I'm pretty much fine with it. Let's start with the Miami offense. Obviously, Tua returns. Tyreek Hill told you to start him in your fantasy leagues. He's going to play. You have some major injuries on the Arizona side of things. Dennis Gardeck, their strong side linebacker, goes on IR. Sean Murphy-Bunting is out at corner. Roy Lopez out on the defensive line. That is another blow to a D-line that is missing Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, BJ Ojulari. It's bad. Now, there is a performance impact to quarterbacks coming off of an injury. It happens. That's accounted for in my number. It's not like I'm modeling this as if Tua is at 100%. I am not. I'm modeling this at the performance dip. Part of the reason I get to this number is because I also don't like Arizona. But the Miami offense, even with a performance dip from Tua, should be exponentially better than what we have seen in recent weeks with Snoop Huntley, Tim Boyle, Skylar Thompson. It's a disaster. They should also be able to run the ball at will on the Cardinals. The Cardinals' front seven is not strong. But even then, really, they can move the ball however they want in this game. Arizona doesn't generate pressure, at least not a bunch of quick pressure. They give up the highest success rate passing in the entire league, which is absurdly high relative to other averages. There's that. So the question is, on the other side of the ball, can Arizona score to keep up? You have a very underrated loss on the Miami defense, which is Zach Sealer, one of the most underrated players in the league. Him and Calais Campbell have been a huge force on that D-line. He got poked in the eye. He's out. That makes things a little bit easier because Kyler Murray really struggles with pressure up the middle, especially quick pressure. But the problem I have with Arizona is right now, their receivers are not getting separation downfield. Like their win over the Chargers was a farce on Monday night. Chargers, you had the Jalen Reagor fumble out of the back of the end zone. You have the Chargers, I'll call it chargering, can't score in the red zone. Marvin Harrison Jr., dead last in terms of separation for wide receivers in the league. I played some overs of his on Monday night, and he got the targets, didn't get the receptions because he's not separating. I'm rooting heavily for Miami today. At this point, we can say, okay, probably not a whole lot to do here. If I had to play something on the game, it would be the over, and that's just holding out hope that, I've underpriced the Miami offense with the downgrades that I've made. If anyone could let me know if they've seen any updates on Jalen Hurts, drop that in the chat if you can. Or if I'm being got here with a Twitter DM. Keep it moving on here. Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Lots of Tampa Bay money showing in market. Joey Toons in the Feed Me Telegram talked about them playing Tampa Bay. We're down to 1.5 at Fanduel. Some books down to 1. Now, the total's been bet up, which sadly, I was going to come on and give that as a look. Right now, Atlanta would be the look for me at the current market price. Let's start with the Atlanta offense because Tampa Bay is facing a lot of injuries at corner. Jamel Dean and Bryce Hall are already on IR. They lose their rookie slot corner, Tyke Smith, who has played very well. He's out for them as well. I don't see a lot of resistance here from the Tampa defense. Tampa's defense is very predictable and not good. They blitz a lot, 43.3%. That's number one in the league. They only generate a pressure 24.6% of the time. That's seventh worst in the league. So they blitz, they don't generate pressure. They leave their corners, who aren't very good, one-on-one with other receivers. That's a recipe for disaster. Kirk Cousins already tore up this defense a few weeks back. Now, there is some precedent in the NFL for the second divisional games that are played in the season to be lower scoring, especially so when they're played in a short turnaround. There is some scientific evidence that points to that. My model does account for that. And I still lean towards the over here. I really like Kirk Cousins over on passing yards. Fanduel is high relative to the rest of the market in terms of the number that's out there. There's some 240 and a halves that are there. I think those are low against this secondary. I really do. Way too low for me, especially if Tampa Bay can make this a game. Obviously, we know the injuries on the Tampa Bay side. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, very likely to play here with the toe injury. And you have Justin Simmons out on the Atlanta defensive side of things. The Falcons' defense is not good. They really aren't. They sit in zone at a very high rate. They don't generate pressure. Baker's been very good against zone this year. He was top 10 last season as well. The question is, how much of a drop-off are the wide receiver injuries? Because the one thing the Falcons do well is cover. Their corners don't give up a lot of separation. I do think Baker can overcome some of these things, but it's going to be challenging. Strong lean to Atlanta right now, based off current market numbers. I'm rooting for points in this game. Any concerns about Cousins' lack of mobility last week? I mean, the big problem here is that Tampa does not have the corners to cover Atlanta's receivers off the line of scrimmage. That's the issue. I mean, if you had a good cornerback group, I would 100% be really concerned about Cousins' mobility. But you don't. He can get the ball out quickly to receivers who can win one-on-one. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. These guys win one-on-one. Baker over rush yards is not a bad play, in my opinion. Because I think he'll have a lot of time, and I don't think his receivers are going to be getting open downfield. And with that time, you see Baker scramble a lot. I think that's a decent look. Okay. Keep it moving. This game got flexed to late time slot, Chicago, Washington. Now, we're not going to put up a board for this game because I set up the boards prior to going to my party yesterday. And I was expecting Marcus Mariota to play, and we're not going to get that in this particular game. We're going to get Jaden Daniels. The market has now moved out to Washington being favored in this game. I imagine that when we get confirmation of Daniels playing, there will be another bump to Washington, as there usually is. And that's when I will be clicking Chicago, in this game. This is a sample size of 1, okay? And I think this is a very incredibly hard game to price right now. But sample size of 1, I'll take you back a few years, early on in the season. I got a message from a friend that said, Justin Herbert is dealing with a rib injury. He's not going to play this upcoming week. I remember this game vividly because I unloaded on the Jaguars in that game. And what happened was, on 10 days rest, Herbert decided he was going to play. The team didn't want to. He went in there. He stunk it up. He wasn't mobile, couldn't throw. Jacksonville won the game something like 38-10. It was a blowout. And when you get the second bump here on Washington, which I really think will come upon announcement that Daniels is in, he is going to be priced as if he is healthy at that point. And there is a very high likelihood that you are not going to see the regular Jaden Daniels. I love Jaden Daniels. I love Washington, love the offense. For all those who've tuned in this year, you know my opinion on that team. Rib injury for a mobile quarterback, big problem. Keeps him in the pocket for one. Second of all, really affects your throwing downfield. Chicago does have some injuries on defense. Kyler Gordon is out. Slot corner Jaquan Brisker is out. But ultimately, again, this is just going to be a challenging game to price. And I am going to take a shot on the Bears once we get to 2.5 here. Got to capture that key number of 2 in the NFL. Of course, right? For those who don't know, I'm being sarcastic. Would they let Jaden play if he is not 100%? He is a rookie. That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. However, I will say the Chargers let Justin Herbert play, who was a franchise quarterback, because he wanted to play, even though no one in the organization did. And I think at the end of the day, quarterback says, I'm good, I want to be in there, they're going to let him play. Those are my thoughts. I don't think Kyler Gordon is the best slot in the league, personally, either. But I do think it's a blow. Other side, really quickly, I think Chicago is going to move the ball. I want to see if Dorrance Armstrong is in for Washington. He's been dealing with an injury, I think rib injury as well. Jonathan Allen's on IR. The defensive line is kind of thin. But the Bears receivers are going to win one-on-one against the Washington corners. I will say the Commanders' corners have been better than I expected this year. But I think Caleb can get the ball out of his hands quickly. We've seen what's happened recently. It's been a lot of short passing for Chicago, right? Early in the year, air yards per attempt was through the roof. Since Keenan Allen's come back, 5.7 air yards per attempt. That's 3 yards lower. It's short passes, moving methodically down the field. The Commanders don't generate pressure. 25% pressure rate, 24th in the league. I'm gonna be betting Chicago in this game. We'll talk about it tonight on the watch along, whether I made a big mistake betting against a team that I felt has been undervalued all year long. All right, keep it moving along here. Jets and Patriots. I also don't really have strong thoughts on the Jets and the Patriots this week. Market's been back and forth. There's still some 7.5 out there. Very little. Mostly at 7 right now. I'm stuck on an over here that I don't really love anymore because of the health of the Jets defense. Start with the Jets offense. Allen Lazard is doubtful. So you get more Mike Williams, more Xavier Gibson. Elijah Vera Tucker is out at right guard. Their starting right guard, Wes Schweitzer, is also on IR. So you're going third string right guard there. You never know who's in and out for the Patriots because no matter who the coaching regime is, they constantly just put everyone on the injury report as questionable. I just assume that guys are in, basically, unless there's some real negativity around there. The Jets offense is not very good. The Patriots defense is not very good. You put those together, you probably get a moderate performance out of the Jets offense. Devontae Adams will help them long-term. They should have had a better output against the Steelers, but Garrett Wilson dropped the ball right off his chest. It's moderate success is what I'm expecting for that offense against this defense. On the other side of things, someone was roasting me this week about saying Drake May is better than Jacoby Brissett. I don't even know how we're getting there. I think they were using the price for when New England went on the road to play the Jets earlier this year on Thursday Night Football, which was 6.5, and now they're bigger underdogs at home. So the logical conclusion was how can you say Drake May is better? He's a bigger underdog at home. Well, we've learned a lot about New England since then. At that point in the season, New England was playing well. They beat Cincy in week 1. People thought they were going to be potentially a different team. We know what they are now. So we can use data instead of a line from like week 3 to tell us these things. But Drake May is better. Gives him more mobility behind a bad offensive line. He has a better arm. He's showing a lot of good things. I think May's going to be a good pro. The problem is you get the fully healthy New York Jets corners. Last week against the Steelers, down 2 or 3 corners going into the game. Sauce Gardner in and out for the game. Tony Adams got hurt. Their secondary was a disaster. Now, they still have issues at safety today. Tony Adams is out. Ashton Davis is out. Chuck Clark's on IR. Are the Patriots going to be the team that beats them downfield? No, I don't think so, because the O-line's not good enough to hold up. So I like Drake May under on passing yards. I would shop around. I think anything 203.5 or better is fine. And you can scale that based off the price you get. But I like the under there. Part of the reason why is also the Jets play extremely slow. I don't think that they're going to be able to separate a ton in this game either because of how slow that they play. So that's where I'm at. Keep it going. Late game, Buffalo, Seattle. The only game today that's going to have some sort of significant weather that we have to deal with, in particular in this game. Total's been bet down to 45.5 at Fanduel. Actually, if you like the under, Fanduel is going to be the best spot in market for you. I do slightly lean towards the under in this game. Heavy rain throughout this one at different times in the game. I'm not a meteorologist. I do try to factor in the weather. We use what we consider to be the best weather feeds for pricing these games. Going to be challenging. So you got to incorporate that into the handicap. Buffalo's offense versus Seattle's defense. Reek Woolen is back in at corner for Seattle. Trey Brown is a questionable, and I don't think we're going to find out until half an hour to an hour before game time here. But the practice squad elevations for Seattle would lean towards him sitting. That's not a guarantee, but would lean towards him sitting. I like this Buffalo offense, obviously. Great quarterback against the Seattle defense that has kind of struggled against other quarterbacks that are mobile so far this year. Bo Nix had a good game on the ground against them. Daniel Jones had a decent game on the ground against them as well. That's an added element to the Buffalo offense here. And the fully healthy wide receiving core with Amari Cooper as well. Got to upgrade that team. So Seattle taking a little bit of money in the market. Actually, you know what? We're kind of flat 3 again everywhere. There was that push, a little bit of buyback on Buffalo as well. Other side of things, DK Metcalf. What does he mean to the offense? A lot. You still have Von Miller suspended for the Bills. Terrell Bernard remains out. But the Buffalo D-line should win against the Seattle O-line. The Seattle O-line is not very good. Gino has overcome it a lot this year, but it's getting pretty ugly for them on the right side in particular. And if Buffalo can drop into coverage against these receivers, it's going to be a huge problem for the Seattle Seahawks offense. DK is just so good at the point of attack. I like Tyler Lockett under receiving yards in this game. It's been bet down a bit. Not enough, in my opinion. If you wanted to look at receptions at plus money as an alternate, I think that's not bad either. Either of those is fine. Okay. Someone's saying you skipped a game. I'm going rotation number order here, and not the game start time. If that game start time. Yeah, that makes sense. Keep it going. Saints and Chargers. Ugly game for me. Also very challenging to price because we get the third Spencer Rattler start. I haven't seen much that I like out of him. I do lean very strongly to the Saints in this game. But full disclosure, it's been very hard for me to come to grips with betting them at any point this week. Market is settled in at 7 for the game. Total 41 or 41.5, depending on the book. A lot of the number in this game is predicated on the Chargers' inability to score touchdowns. You have a wide receiver room without Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis today. Ladd McConkey will play. You have both starting tight ends, or both top 2 tight ends, Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, that are dealing with injuries. Paulson Adebo is a loss for the Saints, but Marshawn Lattimore is good to go here. And Chargers play slow. They obviously like to run the ball quite a bit, although they did go a little bit more pass heavy against Arizona last week. They just really struggle to convert opportunities into touchdowns. And it's challenging to lay this type of price with a team that's like that. In addition, I think I end up with edges many times against the Chargers in home games because I feel like they're priced with a home field advantage that doesn't really exist in a lot of cases as well. So that's a factor here. There's a chance Herbert can cook these guys. They play a lot of cover 1. It's just whether or not the receivers can find any separation. But Herbert has historically cooked that type of defense. Other side of things, you get Joey Bosa back, which is big. You get Chris Olave back, which is big as well. Lucas Patrick, their center, their right guard, Cesar Ruiz, are good to go. Taysom Hill is back in this game as well. I don't like Spencer Rattler. I don't think he's very good. I don't claim to be like this, a scout or a tape extraordinaire or anything like that. But Rattler locks onto his first read and gets stuck there a lot. If I can notice that, I'm sure other people can notice that as well. It's a problem, especially last week. Maybe this week, it's a little bit better because Olave's in the mix for them. With Taysom Hill back, maybe more gadget plays as well and a different type of offense. But right now, with the tackle situation for them, Tyrese Fuaga and Trevor Penning, it's tough to move the ball consistently with how those tackles are playing. Now, I should say, all of this is accounted for in my numbers on the game. So I should, in theory, be betting the Saints at this number. But I've talked about this before. I don't think every number I make is created equal. And there's limitations in some cases because of my inability to price young, low sample size quarterbacks as accurately as people with larger data samples. So Saints are nothing for me at this point with the way that the injuries have progressed over the course of the week in this game. Philly and Cincy. So the big news, which has, thank you for everyone who relayed it in the chat, T. Higgins is out. You're going to see on the board that comes up, this was prepared yesterday, and I wanted T. Higgins under on receptions. The number in this game is also going to change. Cincinnati is not as big a favorite. The total that I have is also going to come down as well. So I want to just make that abundantly clear for everyone out there. I like the possibility of Higgins playing banged up, but it is what it is. I'll start with that side of the ball. Orlando Brown is good to go, which is big for them at left tackle. They didn't want to lose him. He went down last game. Philly's defense has been playing better. I wonder how much of it is just quality of competition recently. You can say that for Cincinnati as well. But back-to-back games, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, for both of these teams, and your defenses are going to look better. I think Cincinnati can pass the ball on anyone. The loss of Higgins hurts. It allows the Eagles to focus a little bit more on Jamar Chase, obviously, and then your secondary options for Cincinnati have to be guys that can win. Andre Yoshivas, Jermaine Burton, Maybe some double tight end sets. Mike Gesicki's kind of been phased out of the offense for Eric All, but you can get some different looks in the game. On the other side, and this is why I didn't bet the Eagles this week, I have a lot of concerns about them offensively up front. We know Jordan Mailata's out. He remains on IR. Fred Johnson is there. Mekhi Becton, the right guard, is out. Dallas Goedert is out, and I will maintain that he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Landon Dickerson went from being one of the best guards in the league a few years ago to one of the worst. He's given up almost a 10% pressure rate this year. And I know Cincy's defense isn't good, but they're at full health now. Right? Like all of their defensive numbers are suppressed from defensive line injuries early in the year. Obviously, Dax Hill's on IR for them as well. But I think that D-line can win a lot of these matchups here. And I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. When he's pressured, he loses focus downfield. He struggles. I think the total in the game is too high at this point, especially off the Higgins injury. All right. Before we get into our next game, take 2 seconds, if you haven't already, smash that like button down below. Got more viewership this week than last week. Let's keep that rolling in the YouTube ecosystem. Hit that like button if you do enjoy the show. Also, if you're not subbed here on Forward Progress, make sure you do that as well. KC and Las Vegas, the famous Kermit the Frog game we got going on here today. It's been talked about a lot. The revenge angle from Patty Mahomes. Admittedly, it's not priced into anything. Listen, I talked about this last week. It was the Super Bowl revenge last week, right? Against Kansas City. I've done a lot of work on revenge angles. It really depends on, how you define them, where there's no clear definition. I don't think they matter all that much. I have a hard time getting to where the market is now, albeit it's not like I have some sort of extreme edge at this price. Once the 10s got bet out, really hard to really justify a play here on the Raiders with the value of 9 being not that much. Total in the game pretty low for a Mahomes start, but it has a lot more to do with the Raiders offense than anything else. First and foremost, KC, even with DeAndre Hopkins in there, Juju Smith-Schuster out, they don't have much explosiveness to their offense. So I'm digging into this game, and I'm kind of looking at my model outputs on the game. And in most of the simulations, like KC is extremely dominant. So I'm like, why am I getting this number here? The reason why is that they don't generate big plays. So when you're laying, when you need a team to win by double digits, yes, their defense is great. Yes, their quarterback is great, despite what people want to say about Mahomes. I think people are insane. But they don't generate enough big plays to earn that separation a lot of times. Because of that, I like Mahomes over on completions. Fanduel has the best number in market right now on this. Bet it there. But I do like Patty Mahomes on completions just because so much of what they do is underneath. Dink and dunk. The other side, Jacoby Myers coming back, in all likelihood, not official yet, is pretty big for that offense. They traded away Devontae Adams. They don't have a lot of weapons. I don't think they're going to score a ton in this game. In a lot of instances, the issue for the Raiders has not necessarily been moving the ball, although that hasn't been great. It's just been the turnovers. And turnover margin has been a big negative factor for them this year. They also struggle on third downs. All of that is in my number and accounted for in the game. I think that is just a tad too high. Just a tad too high. Early Bird says Chiefs minus 20. I honestly, it's well within the range of outcomes that the Chiefs just destroy these guys. It can happen. It's well within the range of outcomes. I will say just on this game, someone else mentioned this to me. I'm not going to take claim of this. I'm not actually going to mention their name because they probably wouldn't want me to mention their name. But later on, when we approach game time in Washington, Chicago, teasing the Bears up and the Chiefs down in this game, I think those are pretty good looks because Shesh, it's very hard for me to say your name. Apologies. He does enough to win is right about Mahomes. He just finds ways to win the games. I think that's a really good teaser look, in all honesty. Carolina, Denver. Our second last game here on the board that I'll talk about today. There's going to be a lot of differing opinions on this game. Market is out to 10.5, 11. I think the 10.5 at Fanduel is the only one left on the board. It is. And so many people are like, you can't lay this type of number with Bo Nix. I actually heard the same argument last week, by the way, lest we forget. Thursday Night Football. How can you lay 3 with Bo Nix on the road? Well, they covered by margin because they were playing another team that was a catastrophe in terms of injuries. This is so much worse. You are looking at, in my opinion, with Bryce Young, no Deontay Johnson, no Adam Thielen, by far the worst offense in the league right now that's going to be playing today, and by far the worst defense in the league. I can understand the hesitation in wanting to lay a big number with Denver, but I strongly lean that way on my current numbers. Carolina is not a real football team. They're not. Bryce Young is not a real quarterback. They have no weapons on the outside. I don't know what the path to success is to move the ball because Denver is going to stack the box. They're going to have Patrick Surtain on, like, who's the number one receiver there right now? Xavier Legette. It's not a real team. It's so hard to account for all of these injuries, defensively especially. Now, we don't know for sure yet what the status is of guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Josie Jewell, A'Shawn Robinson on the D-line. But it's so beat up that I'm struggling to see why people want to make a case for Carolina. That seems to be like I know the lines moved out one way, but it's like, you know what? James C says it best in the chat. I do want to trademark this. It feels like a moron game. It is a moron game because no matter what side you bet on, when you lose, you're going to feel like a moron. You're going to say to yourself, how in God's name did I lay double digits with Bo Nix? I'm a moron. Or how in God's name did I bet this Carolina Panthers team? I'm a moron. It is the classic moron game. But the thing about the Panthers too, which gets me, is like, they can't even backdoor cover games. The offense with Young is so terrible. I don't get it personally. This is the NFL. Everything is possible. I've seen it all. The Raiders went to Baltimore and won this year. It can happen. Everything can happen. I just don't get it with the Carolina Panthers stuff. I really don't. Prop look. This is correlated with my number in the game, which strongly leans Denver. Javonte Williams over on rush attempts. You might say to me, Rob, if you're betting Javonte Williams over on rush attempts, that would be an argument for Carolina to keep it close. The problem is they can't stop the run either. They can't stop anything. But I think you get into a game state here where Denver is leading comfortably. They run the ball a lot. And then you're praying Bryce Young can do something. Panthers to score 0 points, 16-1. The only problem with these bets and why Nolan, I don't want to shit on it. Play your bet because again, my perspective on the win to shutout is that they're a little bit mispriced because coaches will kick a stupid field goal that doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things just to prevent shutouts from happening. Like this could be 24-0 and Carolina's driving and they have a 4th and 3 and they'll kick a field goal to quote unquote get points on the board. That's my issue there. Dallas and San Fran. Sunday Night Football. I'm a Cowboys fan. You see the logo right here before our graphic comes up on screen here. This is another game. Good luck pricing it right now, in my opinion. Doesn't mean you can't bet it or have a stronger opinion than me, but I would say that the confidence level in my rating on this game is extremely low due to the injuries at receiver for San Fran. Brandon Ayuk is out. Juwan Jennings is out. Deebo Samuel trending in. George Kittle trending in. Defense for Dallas. Micah Parsons is out. Deron Bland unlikely to return. Eric Kendricks, Kalen Carson, I don't know just yet. All those put together, it's hard to price it. What I will say is San Fran is very likely going to run the ball at will in this game. The Cowboys' run defense is not a real run defense. Most of that is due to injuries. They have the 3rd worst rush EPA on defense through the first 7 weeks of the year in the past 10 seasons. It's rough. And Shanahan can scheme up a lot of these runs, get wide receivers involved in the running game. There's a pretty decent chance to success for success for San Fran just moving the ball on the ground in this game, which is why my number is on the lower side of 47. Again, take that with a grain of salt. The number's the number, but lots of moving parts in this game. Only thing I could look at current market would be the under here. On the other side, this Dallas offense has routinely struggled against San Fran's D. Now, it's not apples to apples. The 49ers defense is worse this year. They have some players on IR. It's not the same. They're giving up way more points per game at this time this year than they were last year. 6 points more per game. So it's not the same thing. But Cowboys offense it leaves much to be desired. They just don't have the secondary weapons right now outside of CD. Prop look I do like in the game is Brock Purdy under on passing yards. We're in the upper 230s right now. And this is purely thinking about game script. 49ers are favored for one, but also I think this is going to be a run-heavy game plan. That's it for the games today. Hopefully that was helpful in some capacity. I want to tell you straight up here that I am very confident I don't have an edge betting 1 hour before NFL game time. Extremely confident, especially at books that are taking 6 figures right now. Build your positions over the week, but hopefully this gives you some insight into how I see games and how I handicap the games. Even though I have a model that runs numbers, it's all from logic that comes from this giant forehead right here. That's where it comes from. So hopefully that helps you out in some capacity. I see a lot of ones in the chat. I know that means one thing: anytime touchdowns. I know it gets old hearing this, people, but so many people on a weekly basis. If you could see my DMs on Twitter, at Rob Pizzola on Twitter, on a weekly basis, you would see how many people message me with absurd bet amounts on stuff that I give out. Bet within your limits. These are anytime touchdown scores. I am giving you long shots that are unlikely to win. I know we won a massive pure luck 3-game parlay that I didn't even play myself earlier this year. I get it. But bet within your limits. There's a lot I could have given out today, in all honesty, in this market. The three that I like the most, let's start with Detroit and Tennessee. I like Khalif Raymond, anytime touchdown. As a beneficiary of Jameson Williams not being there. Raymond has seen increased snaps in recent weeks. 5-1 at Fanduel is the best price. I would say you need plus 390 minimum. 10 targets in the past 2 weeks. Khalif Raymond, 5-1. Starting it there. We're going to KC and Las Vegas. There's one person on the KC offense that has been brutal this year relative to, I think, expectations. His name is Justin Watson. I am playing Justin Watson, anytime touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore are out. That is 40 snaps gone from last week. Some of those are going to go to DeAndre Hopkins, who I honestly think is overvalued in this game as well. But when he's in there, he will draw more coverage. This is the opportunity for Justin Watson, in my opinion, to get on the board. Plus 490. I know he hasn't come close to sniffing a touchdown this year. I get it. You need plus 400 minimum on Justin Watson. Final one I'm going to give out. We're going Saints, Chargers, and I'm taking Taysom Hill. Anytime touchdown score. They do not have the red zone options. He is back in the game. Spencer Rattler is a walking turnover waiting to happen. I will be floored if there are not Taysom Hill packages in this game. Last time we saw him, he scored a couple touchdowns. He's plus 340. You need plus 285 minimum on Taysom Hill. These are the three that I like the most. I'm going to give out a super nasty, ugly long shot here that very likely won't win. Jason's pointing out on screen that parlay pays almost 137-1. You don't have to parlay them. I'll tell you I didn't. But if you want to, sure, go ahead. Philadelphia, Cincinnati. Jack Stoll. Plus 1,700-ish in the market. FanDuel only. It almost might steam while I'm giving it out here. He's splitting snaps with Grant Calcaterra. He's only gotten 2 targets this year, 1,800 right now. A few bucks on Jack Stoll. This is nothing more than I like the price, and I think that there's some possibility that he has some red zone snaps today. Don't want to say much more than that. 18-1. Go for it. I'll give a very special guest, a very special anytime touchdown score from a good friend of mine as well, who's very good at this. We're going Buffalo, Seattle. He says, Khalil Shakir is the best touchdown bet on the board by a mile. FanDuel. Give that one out. Plus 390. I'm tailing. That's going to be it for anytime touchdowns. And that's going to be it for today. I am back tonight. Who knows what condition I'm going to be in? I got the Sugo going right now. Sugo Sunday. Pasta and sauce, as Andrea Bargnani used to say. The mustache will still be here. I kind of like it. I think I'm keeping it for a little bit. If someone's going to call you a pervert, you might as well own it. I think it looks okay. I'm back here tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Cowboys 49ers. I'm watching my team play live on air. That's always fun. But most importantly, me and Clive Bixby are pulling up the Week 9 board, and we're giving our early thoughts on the Week 9 board. I think once again, last week, we did a pretty good job with the early looks, especially Miami, which soared out a ton. Cleveland came down a ton. Tune in tonight. Try to get some early value on next week's card if you are betting early. If you're too big for that, totally understand it as well. That's going to be it for me. Enjoy the day. It's a great sports day. Lot going on. Bet within your limits. Have a good time. Enjoy it. Join me back here at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Smash that like button on the way out the door. This has been the Pizza Buffet, Week 8 in the NFL, presented by Fanduel. Peace out, everyone. Enjoy the day.